Welcome everyone to another episode of the Shaman's Way podcast. As always, this episode comes from the teachings of our amazing friend and shaman in residence, Kriket. We hope you're enjoying these podcasts as much as we enjoy making them, and I'd like to take just a moment to ask you if you would please leave us a rating and a comment in iTunes or whichever podcast player you're listening to us from. Giving us a rating and sharing this podcast with others is the biggest way you can tell us that you like our show. Now, without further ado, on with the episode.
This comes from my own notes, and it's called Notes on the New Moon. And so, first one should be aware that the moon has always played an important part of the mythology of most humankind. Almost every single culture has assigned a spiritual being to the celestial, mysterious light above. Male and female gods and goddesses alike, with many a name and equally different stories, lay claim to the mystery of the moon and lay their names upon the mystery of the moon. Now, I love to have chats about the moons. One of my friends bestowed and extolled the virtues of the full moon, or the moon in general, as female, because this person wouldn't buy that there could be a male moon. Many cultures would disagree. However, I digress. The discussion named Selene, Diana, Hecate as the three goddesses of choice to explain the moon. The moon, don't you know, is always regarded as female, and the reason, in their most humble opinion, is that it isn't unpredictable as a woman, isn't it? The moonrise and the moonset are not consistent. The moon can be in the sky long after sunrise, and can be in the sky long before sunset, like a woman, who can be rather capricious. And the sun calendar, this person further countered, is associated with male energy because it is stable and predictable, like our social view of the male. Really, how could I argue with that? 4 phases of the moon: the full, the waning, the new, the waxing. From the new moon to the full moon is that waxing period, that growing period. And from the full moon to the new moon is that waning, that getting smaller. And the full moon is considered to be pregnant, waiting to give birth. And the new moon is considered to be the crone, the dying moon. Now, however, in the story of La Calavera, grandmother death, or, the godmother death, teaches that death is ultimately the rebirth, the life-death-life cycle. For my own story, the darkness is considered, this dark moon time, as the void pregnant with potential, which is why we cast our intentions out into the void to be reborn in the full moon. The waxing moon is considered to be the maiden. And the waxing and the full moon are considered to be good times for rituals for gain. And the waning moon, of course, because it gets smaller, is a good time for getting rid of things or for doing banishings. The new moon, again, from my view, is the time of the betwixt and the between, where either can work. When asked how I view the new moon, I respond, well, it is a time to go within and seek from inside to affect the outside. The new moon is a time to make wishes. And don't we all like to make wishes sometimes, right? I wish this traffic would move faster. Oh, wouldn't it be nice? I wish for la 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 la. I wish for a beautiful ceremony. I wish for good grace. I wish for a relationship with the darkness that teaches me. These are great wishes. The new moon is the beginning of the cycle, and the end being the full moon. the time of fruition. The new moon, from my perspective, perhaps it is somewhat misunderstood. It embodies a dark time. It is gathering, it is the hands of darkness that take you inside and hold you in your spiritual rest. It reminds me of the black soil, that healthy soil to plant things. It is a time of planting new seeds to incubate and to grow as the moon grows towards fullness. I like to spend a few moments in the stillness thinking about what seeds or desires or goals I want to sow under the watchful dark eye of the moon. I particularly enjoy when the winter solstice is close to the new moon. I find that absolutely delightful. And one year we did a December 21st ceremony on a full moon, and it was so cold out. It was at least minus 30, 35 degrees Celsius. However, I got off my story and I wanted to return back to my idea of the beginning of the circle and the beginning of the new moon. I think that it is misunderstood. The new moon is associated with the darkness, which we've talked about before and you've talked about before, perhaps as being maligned or often misunderstood. And our society has taken the beauty and the bounty of the darkness and turned it into a place of fear. And darkness can even be darkness of thought. Not darkness as a negative thought, but unknown to you, so ignorant to you. So a darkness of thought being, I don't know how a cardinal thinks, nor would a cardinal know how I think. So this is that time of that darkness of thought. That new moon is associated with that stillness, that thinking. How do we think? What kind of seeds do we want to grow? So our society has taken the beauty and the bounty of darkness and again turned it into a place of fear, which we just talked about. So the darkness then is also associated, oftentimes with our shadow side. Yeah, Jungian psychology teaches it's a part of ourselves we don't wish to see, a part of ourselves we actively ignore. Well, it has become really quite common in our psychology today to talk about our shadow side. Actually, no, I want to go back to a little bit to the relationship between not knowing how one thinks and what the darkness is, and what a place of fear is. In not knowing how one thinks, I can't actually even begin to imagine what is fear, or what is bounty, what is other things. I can project what I think. We can all take in this relationship of reality and think, oh, this is what darkness is, or oof, this is what light is. But depending on the mind, depending on how one feels, how one sees, what one has been conditioned to believe, accept, or acknowledge. In relationship with the new moon, for me, is partly, actually quite a lot, I think, has a lot to do with the fact that I was born on a new moon. So I don't actually have a really big relationship with the full moon. In fact, when I was searching my documents, and I have quite a few, stuff that I've written over the years, I hadn't written one on the full moon. And one of the absolute beautiful aspects of community is that there are amazing full moon ceremonies. There are full moon drumming circles, there are full moon red tents, there are full moon meditations, there's full moon yoga. We really have a relationship with the full moon in our society that is very natural, it seems organic, and really I think that people relate very well to the concept and to the energy of the full moon. Many people claim to have relationship of energetic affected. So the full moon affects people's minds, it affects their energy. And we all know the word Luna and lunatic and the relationship of the full moon, because I'm certain that I'm speaking to more than one ear who has a relationship to the full moon. I know I'm speaking to more than one ear that has done its beautiful ceremonies and rituals around the time of the full moon. So I don't have to write about it. I don't have to share that relationship because it's readily available. It's readily available doing any type of internet search. It's fairly available to you. In astronomy and astrology, the celestial phenomenon known as the new moon, it occurs at the exact moment when the sun and the moon occupy exactly the same point in the sky. The sun takes approximately 1 month to travel through one sign of the zodiac. In this same amount of time, the moon travels through all 12 signs of the zodiac every 2.5 days. So a new moon occurs approximately every 30 days. What I really like and what I groove on is that the metaphor of the new moon is alliance. The two most individually significant celestial bodies, the sun and the moon, merge, they form an alliance. So this becomes a renewed alignment of one's sense of personal direction or emotional commitment. True, the focus changes, as do the characteristics of this applied energy, in an orderly and progressively way through the year and in natural sequences of events, as opposed to one based strictly on the traditional calendar. The starting point begins here with the new moon. The new moon, we can take a relationship of this alliance and time to focus on the changes. What is the personal direction? What is the emotional commitment? And involve ourselves within the baking or the bringing forward of that, the metaphor of that new moon. Where is my alliance? Can I relate my reliance? Can I throw what my seeds are out into the void, that pregnant potential? Can I allow them to grow through the time of the moon? Can I allow them to grow through the time of the wheel? Can I focus my attention long enough to pay attention to see whether or not anything has changed? That's a good, that also is an aspect of who we are and where we are. I want to quote Wendell Berry. To go in the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without sight, and find that the dark, too, blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. The medicine wheel, Sun Bear's medicine wheel, I devote quite a bit of time in creating relationship between the different moons. I like using a moon wheel. What I've done is all the 12 points where the moons are, this medicine wheel that you can draw out on a large piece of white paper or, certainly online, and map the moons. Which moons are winter moons? Which moons are spring moons? Which moons are etc., etc. When we look at the moon in relationship to where it sits on the wheel, it changes the perception of the relationship we have with it. So in the very north to northeast is the snow goose and the otter and the cougar. How are those moons relating to that part of the medicine wheel, or even do they? Do you think it's random that these moons are taking our consciousness from the darkness of winter solstice to the way of vernal equinox or spring equinox? And from that time when we have an equilibrium of light and dark, we move into summer solstice, the longest night. And what do the moons tell us there? And tell us, that beaver would tell us, the deer would tell us, as we transition through this moon, through this time, through this space. And which moons gather the light to them and help us move through it, the darkness, the flicker, the salmon, the sturgeon, the brown bear, moving from the south to the west of the wheel. These are our full summer swinging into autumn moons. What does the flicker teach you? What does the sturgeon teach you in July? How does the bear manifest in August to September? How do these moons affect you? How does the moon of the raven, working with the snake on a full moon, the snake on a full moon, working with the elk for the last moon, for the 24th wheel on the stone? And what do those wheels mean? What do those numbers for the moons mean? So the first moon after solstice is the snow goose, 13. The earth renewal moon. And then the rest and cleansing moon. And then the big winds moon. All of those are the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th stones on the wheel. And the budding trees moon, and the frog's return moon, and the corn planting moon, taking us from that place of equilibrium to that place of illumination and light from the long sun. And then the strong sun, the ripe berries, of course that's your sturgeon, and the harvest, the brown bear. Take us through that time of high sun to that time of equilibrium as we step onto the slippery slope towards the darkness. The ducks fly moon, the freeze up moon, and the long snows moon. The raven, the snake, and the elk. The moons change us, shape us, shift with us. I respect the relationship between an individual and a time of the month, a time of the year, a time of the soul. The wheel brings me back around, obviously, every single year to the exact same moon. But every single year, I find something different about the moon. I find a different tidbit of information. I find a difference in my journeys. I find a difference. Paying attention. How do I pay attention? What is my alert awareness? Where is my alert awareness? Working with the wheel, working with the moons as one aspect of the wheel, is allowing yourself the time to slow down, to learn the lessons that may associate you on a deeper level with the world around you, bringing you closer to nature and your nature self. We have stepped forward into acknowledging another relationship with the world around us, acknowledging our responsibility to the relationship of the world around us. Whether that relationship is in the black and white feathers of the snow goose, or in the huge sturgeon which feeds people and is a venerated part of the lake and river system, in Alberta. And raven, many can identify with raven, and each time we come around, does raven have a different story? I like to break down learning into pieces, and by examining the pieces individually, I get to see a better relationship of the whole. I like to be visual. I like to create a medicine wheel, and my full moon stones, my moon stones, are all new moon stones, and they're the same Black River stones that I've had for many years, and they've built many a medicine wheel and many a circles and many a rituals over the years. But when I do full moon, then I use shells, white shells, and that is my representation of full moon. And I have many beautiful friends and strangers over the years who have gifted me with beautiful white shells, and I have the opportunity to bring that water element of the full moon into the circles that I create. So what is our relationship with the moon? How do we create and manifest that relationship outside of ourselves? How do we do that? How do we take care of that? So there are aspects of the moon that give me pause. In the north, if we stand in dead north, this is the time of the dark moon. And as we go around the 8 quadrants of the wheel, we come to realize that each quadrant of the wheel has a different relationship to the moon. So north, which is earth, has the dark moon. East, northeast, is the new moon, so the 3rd day of the new moon. East is the 1st quarter. Southeast is the waxing. It's that growing moon. It's that 3/4 moon. South, it is the full moon. Southwest, it is the waning moon. It is that 3/4 waning moon. And west is that last quarter. And when we come into the northwest of the wheel, we come into the old moon. Usually the 1st day of the new moon, it's invisible. This is walking between the worlds, exploring past lives, working with the outer world, ancestor magic. In the west, we reap rewards, we celebrate, we balance. In the southwest, we cleanse, we remove, we harvest. We remove the influences that are no longer positive for us. In the south, we have awareness, full moon magic, expanding mind, otherworld travel, processing, being present. In the southeast, the 3rd quarter, we have growth, nature, dance, fertility. In the east, initiations, dedications, inspiration, illumination. Northeast, healing, refreshing, rejuvenation, insight. North, inward, inner worlds, earth magic, dark moon. as many ways as you can have a relationship with the moon. The moon can have a relationship with you. For some of us, we have and look for myths for the moons, and for some of us, we don't have a relationship with the moon. Maybe that's not part of your spiritual practice, and you happen to land on this podcast and you're thinking to yourself, I wonder where I am right now, and perhaps you're not, I don't know. Where I want to end with this is that tracking the world around you and becoming aware of how things can be, not that things are always predictable, goodness gracious, we know that it's not. However, the sun rising, the sun setting, the shifting of the moon, the changing of the energies, the waxing and the waning, the full and the new, they are continuity. They are continuous. They are reminders that even if we don't pay attention, the tick-tock, the time, the maker, the creator, the just objectivity of the universe continues to beat on, regardless of whether or not we're aware. I want to live aware. I want to live awake. And sometimes, truly, I am super dense and can certainly make my mistakes. But I do try to practice illumination. I do try to practice introspection. I do want to hear how you or how others experience the moons. I would love to know what stirs your imagination. Are you in love with the stories of the rituals done on fires? What drew you to listen to me discuss my thoughts regarding the moons? Where you are, where you stand, who you are, that's your personal journey, one of which I don't have insight into because, again, I would know how a cardinal thinks any more than he would know how I think. So how things affect you, I don't know. Maybe you're the cardinal mind. I bid you a fond farewell. Thank you for listening to my constant listeners. Thank you very much for your time, your patience, your energy, and your attention. Till next time.
Thank you again for joining us here on the Shaman's Way podcast. If you have any questions, would like to make a request for a future episode, or if you're looking for other shamanic resources, including free drumming tracks, please visit us at shamansway.net. Until the next episode, be well, everyone.